A warrior wields a Tengu demon blade and, with a single move, slays a 1,000-year-old ancient cursed dragon. As Japan's fiercest warrior, his talent brought him no dignity. Instead, he was forced to grovel like a slave, trampled beneath everyone's feet. During the Tokugawa shogunate's reign, demons and monsters roam the islands, while deep within the dense forests lurks the legendary Tengu clan, a forbidden land that no living creature dares to tread. Kai has lived with the Tengu since childhood, forced to practice swordsmanship and killing techniques day after day, which only makes his desire for freedom grow. At 17, he finally saw his chance to escape. Without looking back, he ran toward the edge of the forest until he was completely free of the Tengu's control, collapsing from exhaustion only then. But a passing samurai spotted the Tengu mark on Kai's forehead. Instead of helping, the samurai pressed Kai's face into the stream, trying to drown him. Facing death, Kai instinctively seized the sword and fought back, only to lose consciousness again and fall into another faint. The samurai still refused to spare Kai's life, but the timely intervention of the Ako clan stopped him. The clan lord, with a keen eye for talent, saw Kai's extraordinary potential beneath his rough exterior and, despite objections, took him in. In return for this kindness, Kai remained loyal to the lord over the years, enduring the scorn of the other samurai without ever wavering. One day, Ako's territory was attacked by a giant beast. The lord personally led the samurai into battle, but Kai, due to his low status, was excluded from the fight. Just as the samurai formed their ranks, the monster launched a sudden attack, throwing them into chaos and nearly fatally wounding the lord. Kai decided he could no longer stand by. He leapt onto a horse and followed the monster's trail. From its appearance, the beast seemed to be a mutated Kirin, with 6 eyes and features fused from various mythical creatures. Its massive body was partially covered in dragon scales. Dozens of battle-hardened samurai suffered heavy losses before they could surround it, but the beast broke free with a single charge. Then the Kirin suddenly turned, locking its gaze on the samurai, and let out an earth-shaking roar. At that moment, Kai finally arrived on the battlefield. The Kirin charged again, but Kai, unafraid, picked up a fallen treasure blade and struck the Kirin's vital spot. After a painful struggle, the beast crashed to the ground, never to rise again. When the dust settled, Kai approached the Kirin's corpse, pulled out the sword embedded in its body, knelt on one knee, and presented the blade to the samurai with the utmost respect. But the samurai showed no gratitude. Instead, he insulted Kai, declaring he would rather die than be saved by someone so lowly. They believed their bloodline and identity were sacred. To them, Kai, a half-breed, was beneath contempt, an outcast unworthy of standing beside noble warriors. Kai knew this all too well, so he sought no credit, allowing the samurai to take the glory. Everyone believed it was the samurai who had defeated the Kirin. However, the Lord's chief retainer noticed the Kirin's blood on Kai's hands and immediately understood the truth. Kai expected the retainer to defend him, but the man merely shot him a disdainful glance before walking away with his head held high. Just then, a white fox emerged from the forest, its striking, mismatched brown and blue eyes catching Kai's attention. This white fox was actually Witch, a sorceress loyal to Lord Kira of the northern Nagato clan. The Kirin's attack on Ako and Lord Asano had been orchestrated by Lord Kira from the shadows. His lands had been ravaged by extreme cold, leaving them barren and desolate, and he envied Lord Asano's fertile territory. During the rule of the Tokugawa shogunate, the supreme shogun Tokugawa Tsuneyoshi would personally inspect each domain to ensure their loyalty and submission, thereby upholding the shogunate's authority. The next stop on his tour was Ako domain. That night, lords and leaders from across Japan gathered in Ako, dressed in their finest attire, to welcome the shogun's arrival at Edo Castle with a grand ceremony. From the sidelines, Kai caught sight of an unusual woman blending in among the concubines. Her eyes were identical to those of the white fox he had seen days before. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Kai immediately reported his discovery to Oishi, the chief retainer, hoping he would take action. But Oishi dismissed Kai's warning with contempt, and his negligence was about to lead to an irreversible tragedy. The next day, the shogun hosted a grand martial arts tournament where samurai would showcase their skills. The most outstanding warriors would earn the honor of joining the shogun's elite forces. Through secret manipulations, Lord Kira had secured a place in the competition and became Lord Asano's rival. This was not only to gauge Lord Asano's strength, but also to undermine Ako domain's reputation and influence. To ensure victory, Lord Kira recruited a towering warrior over 8 feet tall and used witches' enchantments to put Lord Asano's strongest samurai into a coma before the match, preventing them from competing. As time ticked by, the shogun's patience wore thin. If no warrior stepped forward, Lord Asano's honor would be utterly destroyed. At this critical moment, Kai decided to defy his lowly status. Risking everything to uphold his lord's dignity, he stepped onto the battlefield. However, his opponent not only towered over him but also wielded a sword 3 times the size of Kai's. In this mismatched duel, Kai swung his weapon with all his might, but his opponent stood like an unshakable mountain, unharmed. He even blocked Kai's blade barehanded, shattering it, then countered with a single heavy punch that sent Kai flying dozens of meters away, his helmet flying off. Enraged, the shogun declared Kai's execution for impersonating a samurai. At the brink of death, Lord Asano's daughter, Mika, desperately pleaded for mercy. The shogun, considering the lord's face, ultimately spared Kai's life. Though his life was saved, punishment was inevitable. Kai's armor was stripped away, and 3 samurai took turns beating him with wooden staves until he was knocked unconscious. Since his adoption, Kai had shared a bond with Mika, like siblings. As they grew older, their affection deepened, but their differing statuses kept them apart, like an invisible wall. As night fell, Lord Kira deemed the time ripe. Under his orders, Witch began casting her spell. With an incantation, the hatred and desire buried deep within Lord Kira's heart materialized into a purple liquid. Using her hairpin as a conduit, Witch released the liquid, then shaped it into a venomous spider carrying Lord Kira's will. With her task complete, Witch transformed into a flowing, silent garment, slipping into Lord Asano's bedchamber under the cover of darkness. Confirming no one else was present, she revealed her human form. With a wave of her hands, the purple spider crawled toward Lord Asano's lips. After forcing the liquid into his mouth, the spider vanished without a trace. Under the liquid's influence, Lord Asano's eyes turned pale, and he hallucinated his beloved daughter being defiled by Lord Kira. A scream of pain woke him up, and in a rage he drew his sword and stabbed Lord Kira in the back. As he raised his blade for a second strike, his guards restrained him. Only when Mika arrived did Lord Asano gradually regain his senses. Though the nightmare had passed, the reality remained. He had attacked Lord Kira, a guest under the shogun's roof. This act, witnessed by the shogun, was a direct challenge to the shogunate's authority. Enraged, the shogun sentenced Lord Asano to death but allowed him to preserve his family's honor through seppuku, ritual suicide. Later, Lord Asano realized he had been ensorcelled, his will manipulated by his enemy. Yet, as a man of honor, he chose to accept his fate to protect his people from retribution. After entrusting his domain to Oishi, he left a detailed will, then performed seppuku before the shogun, ending his life with a warrior's dignity. Oishi, whom he had personally chosen to be his kaishakunin, second, carried out the final blow. Lord Asano considered it an honor to have such a loyal and respected retainer perform this duty, and he died without regret. With Lord Asano's death, a smirk crept across Lord Kira's face. To prevent escalating feuds, the shogun placed Akko domain under Nagato domain, ruled by Lord Kira, and arranged for Mika to marry him, strengthening the bond between the 2 clans. The marriage was to take place immediately after the mourning period. Meanwhile, the loyal Akko retainers were stripped of their status and reduced to Ronin, masterless samurai, forced into a life of hardship and wandering. After the shogun's departure, fearing retaliation, Lord Kira banished the Akko retainers from their homeland forever, severing any chance of revenge. Kai, too, suffered. He was sold into slavery off the island, while Oishi, the chief retainer, was deliberately imprisoned in a dark, damp dungeon to break his spirit. After a year of darkness and torment, Oishi emerged hollow-eyed, his body weakened to the brink of collapse, his spirit nearly shattered. When Lord Kira's men dragged him out, he was no longer the proud chief retainer, but a broken, stray dog. The soldiers left, satisfied, unaware that the moment they turned their backs, Oishi's eyes regained their former sharpness. He confessed his plan to his wife, then cut all ties with her to keep her safe from the dangers ahead. With his personal affairs settled, Oishi hurried to the outer islands where he found Kai battling a monster in an underground fight ring. The creature wielded a scythe in one hand and a meteor hammer in the other. One misstep could mean being cut in half or crushed into pulp. In this extreme environment, Kai had endured countless life and death trials, honing his swordsmanship to the level of a grandmaster. Though his opponent appeared massive and formidable, Kai's agility kept him untouchable. With a single, perfect strike, he ended the giant's life. To reach Kai, Oishi had no choice but to step into the fighting pit, but a year in the dungeon had dulled his swordsmanship, and he was quickly defeated by Kai. On the verge of execution, Oishi desperately cried out Mika's name, snapping Kai out of his bloodlust. His prolonged battles had taken a toll on his mind. Kai then performed a signature move from traditional samurai duels, signaling to Oishi that he had regained his rationality. They kept up the pretense of fighting before seizing the opportunity to kill the slave master together. To buy time for their escape, they knocked over nearby oil lamps, igniting a wall of flames that engulfed the ship. Amid the chaos, they fled the harbor under the cover of the inferno. After this ordeal, Oishi set aside his pride and humbly offered Kai a clean set of clothes. Kai, without hesitation, accepted Oishi's request to help him avenge Lord Asano. Oishi then rallied the exiled samurai, each of whom had been deeply indebted to Lord Asano and was prepared to die for their lord's honor. Their greatest challenge, however, was obtaining weapons. Lord Kira, having caught wind of their plans, had already sealed off all the blacksmith forges. When Oishi and his men arrived at the town's armory, they found it completely emptied, with only a few soldiers patrolling nearby. Kai's eyes locked onto the soldiers' weapons. Seizing an opportunity, he struck swiftly, disarming and defeating each soldier before they could react. Finally, Kai raised a bow and arrow, taking aim at the last soldier attempting to flee. With a single, precise shot, he pierced the soldier's heart, dropping him instantly. Though they had secured weapons, there weren't enough to arm everyone. Kai led Oishi and a few samurai into the Tengu forest, a place shrouded in eerie mist where restless spirits wandered, seeking vengeance. Those with weak wills risked being possessed and losing themselves. After surviving the forest's trials, they reached the sacred grounds of the Tengu clan, where a massive Buddha statue stood at the entrance. Only Oishi was permitted to follow Kai inside. The other samurai had to wait outside. At the entrance to the sacred space, Kai solemnly warned Oishi, "Stay alert." Inside the sanctum, they saw monks kneeling before the Buddha statue, their devotion palpable. The Tengu clan members knelt at the front, followed by their disciples, just as Kai had in his youth. After settling Oishi in the sanctum, Kai moved confidently through the corridors to his master's training grounds. As his master emerged from the shadows, it seemed he had already anticipated Kai's purpose. A legendary blade stood before him. The master had forged this sword to defend against those with ill intent, and the brutal training he had forced upon Kai was meant to grant him the power to protect himself and others, to combat evil and uphold justice. Now was the time for Kai to claim it.
Take the blade, Kai, if you can reach it before me.
Just as Kai focused his energy to seize the blade, Oishi was distracted by footsteps. Kai turned to see the samurai who were supposed to be waiting outside had silently entered the sanctum. The Tengu monks, sensing danger, began to tremble. The samurai drew their swords in alarm, and the Tengu, awakened by the threat, struck with phantom-like speed, slaughtering the intruders. One by one, the samurai fell, none surviving. In the training space, Kai closed his eyes, fully immersing himself in the coming challenge. In that instant, both he and his master unleashed their ultimate techniques. Kai, moving faster than his master, seized the blade and pressed it to his master's throat. At the same moment, Oishi's inner demons were dispelled. Having passed their trials, Kai and Oishi were granted 47 legendary Tengu blades, forged from the mystical ores of the Tengu forest. These blades were unparalleled in hardness, toughness, and sharpness, their craftsmanship perfected over generations by master Tengu smiths. The samurai who had once scorned Kai and stolen his glory now bowed before him, offering the highest respect and recognition. The 47 masterless samurai stood in a line, each slicing their thumbs to leave a blood handprint on an oath scroll, a testament to their honor and courage for future generations.
We end this now.
As Mika's mourning period ended, she was to marry Lord Kira that very night. Oishi and his men used this opportunity to disguise themselves as wedding staff, slipping into the castle unnoticed. As the performance began, Oishi and his disguised troupe danced on stage, while the other samurai silently scaled the walls, infiltrating the castle at its weakest points. They moved like shadows, eliminating guards without raising an alarm. But as Oishi swapped his prop for a Tengu blade, a guard spotted the anomaly and fired an arrow, grazing Oishi's arm. Their cover blown, the carefully planned assassination was exposed. Lord Kira's guards rushed to form a shield wall, escorting him to safety. Meanwhile, the giant warrior, controlled by witch's magic, was blown apart by explosives the samurai had brought from off-island, revealing him to be nothing more than an enchanted suit of armor. But Mika, refusing to be a pawn, drew a hidden dagger and resisted. Oishi and Kai arrived just in time, sending Lord Kira fleeing in panic. Kai dispatched the remaining guards and rushed to Mika. Their reunion was brief. Witch suddenly appeared, transforming into an ancient cursed dragon. Brighter light. As Kai's strike wounded Witch, she unleashed a devastating dragon's breath, but Kai stood unharmed, unyielding even as the flames subsided. Witch, no other options. Witch resorted to a cowardly attack, striking at Kai's legs and sweeping him off his feet with her tail. As Kai lay helpless, Witch turned her fury toward Mika. Desperate, Kai was forced to use his forbidden shadow shift technique. In a flash, he retrieved the fallen Tengu blade and teleported behind Witch, driving the blade into her skull before she could react. Witch died instantly. Kai had always honored the promise he made to his master at 12 years old when he fled the Tengu forest. He would never use the shadow shift unless absolutely necessary. To him, this power was not just a skill, it was a burden, a responsibility. Without Witch's dark magic, Lord Kira was powerless, a toothless paper tiger. Oishi swiftly beheaded him, raising Lord Kira's severed head high to declare the end of their vengeance. Afterward, Oishi placed Lord Kira's head before Lord Asano's grave, offering it as a final tribute to his fallen lord. Though their revenge was complete, they had defied the shogun's decree against vengeance. By law, they should have been executed as criminals. However, considering their enemy was a treacherous betrayer, their actions were driven by unwavering loyalty to the Bushido Code and their late lord, Lord Asano. In the end, the shogun permitted the 47 Ronin to end their lives with honor, through seppuku, dying as true samurai.